Welcome back to my channel, guys. I wanted to make a quick video to talk about this story. It's funny with this channel, I always feel like I'm running out of ideas of things to talk about that I haven't already discussed related to the themes of this channel. And then something will happen and I'm like, oh, I have to make a video about this. I have to report back about this story. So sure enough, here we are again. So yesterday I was kind of moody for a variety of reasons, work stress, and you know when you have those self-reflective moments where you feel like you should be farther along in life, like financially, personally, professionally. I was in a funk. I was like, I feel like things aren't happening enough. I should be farther along in life. So I was in my head about it and I thought, you know what? Today needs to be a self-care day, a chicken soup for the soul kind of day. So I started my day with Turkish brunch. If you're not familiar with Turkish brunch, by the way, I'm half Turkish for those of you who don't know. A true Turkish brunch is a bunch of plates in front of you that you pick from, and it's a mix of sweet and savory. So you have eggs, you have different breads, cheeses, olives, some fresh vegetables, and a bunch of spreads like different jams, jellies, honey, and so on. So I had my Turkish brunch, and while I was having Turkish brunch, I remembered that a friend told me there was a Turkish hammam in Miami somewhere. And I thought, oh, today is the day. Today would be the perfect day to have a Turkish self-care itinerary. So I looked it up on Google Maps, and turns out the one my friend was talking about, which I think is more high-end, was farther away in Miami. But who knew that there was a Turkish bathhouse like 3 or 4 miles from where I live? So I thought, this is perfect. I'll just go to the one, a few miles away. Now, mind you, I've been once to a Russian bathhouse, which I guess is comparable. And this one that I ended up going to was a mix of Russian and Turkish. It's like interwoven. I don't know enough about the differences of a Russian bathhouse. My understanding is it's the same idea where you've got a bunch of different facilities. You have a steam room, a sauna, a pool, and so on. But I think it's the same sort of idea of like an old school, what's the word I'm looking for? Like low maintenance, borderline DIY, do it yourself. Like it's not a high-end spa where you're pampered and everything's there there's always somebody there to like give you a fresh towel. This is not that. This is very much like you walk in, you do whatever you want, and it's just more rough around the edges in terms of like services, hygiene, and all of that. But a true Turkish hammam, by the way, and I've never been to a real one in Turkey. Next time I go to Turkey, I'm gonna need to go. But there's sort of, not a folklore, but it's like there's a culture around Turkish hammams. The visual in my head is like you're just sitting there and there's one guy like whipping you with a towel, there's another guy scrubbing you, there's another guy soaping you up. It's like, again, it's like a spa, but without the sort of gentle hands and the pampering. It's more like intense, but it's meant to really clean you up and purify you, I guess we can say. But of course, as a gay person, right, whenever I think of bathhouses and saunas, especially if they're men only, there's a connotation there of like things might be happening. For example, there's a Soho House here in Miami. If you're familiar with Soho House, the chain, I guess we can call it. I bet they wouldn't want to be called a chain, but the Soho House hotels and membership clubs. There's a sauna here in Miami, and I've heard so many stories about what goes on in the sauna here. So it's a thing. Gay saunas are a thing. In fact, some of you have asked me before, like, oh, did you go to the gay saunas in Athens, in Greece, or in wherever else, in Rome? I passed one this summer in France, in the south of France, and somebody in the comments was like, oh, did you go to a gay sauna? I've never been to a gay sauna. I am terrified of gay saunas. Again, if it's men only, I can only imagine what happens. It's just not my thing. It's just not my thing. And I have this picture in my head of like, you walk in and think it's going to be like, this hot porno, and really I've never been. So again, maybe I'm assuming, but in my mind, I feel like I would show up and it would just be like weirdos staring at me and being creepy. I don't know. But so this Turkish hammam / Russian bathhouse in Miami, I was so curious about what I would find. So here's my story of how this place was. First off, it was in the basement of, I guess, first floor of this huge building, which I thought was a hotel. My friend later told me that he knows that building and it's a residential building. But it was just bizarre to me that, like, you know, below this huge compound, there's a Turkish / Russian bathhouse, right? So as soon as I get to the lobby of this bathhouse, it's already chaos. Like, you would think they just opened that day, because the people at the front desk they seemed very overwhelmed. They didn't seem totally professional or aware of what to do. For example, I told them that I had already prepaid online, that I bought like an admission ticket, which, by the way, is kind of a neat system. So you pay an admission fee, kind of like a theme park, and then you could stay all day if you want. Like, very simple. You pay one fee and then you hop around the different facilities of this bathhouse. And then, of course, if you want like a massage or like a specific service that they offer, then you pay more. But so I explained this to them and they're like, okay, write down your confirmation code on a piece of paper. And it was this really long code. And I'm like, shouldn't they be doing this? Like, shouldn't there be a more efficient system of how they track people who have prepaid? Like, this does not seem like a professional or modern way to handle this. So I'm literally writing like 30 different characters from this confirmation code on a piece of paper. It was just ridiculous. Then they gave me these, first they're like, we need your valuables, which I was like, what the hell is this about? But I think they do that so that you can't walk out without paying. I realized that later. So I give them my wallet and my keys and they're like, keep your phone. Also bizarre. They put it in this lockbox. Then they throw that in the back closet. They hand me these keys for a locker in the locker room and a small towel, a tiny towel. And they're like, all right, head all the way to the back. So I head all the way to the back and I passed the women's locker room. So I'm like, oh, this is not a men's only bathhouse. Interesting. Let's see what happens here. So I go change, of course. I lock up my stuff. And again, in my head, I'm like, this is so strange. If I have a locker, why couldn't I put my valuables in here instead of like some over there? I thought it was bizarre. And then I walk in. I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know if it's always like this, but at bathhouses, but there had to be like 20 different rooms of facilities that you can choose from. Very interesting. So there's like this huge jacuzzi room with this spout coming from the ceiling that is continually bringing water down into the huge jacuzzi. That was kind of like the central room. Then there's a pool outside. There's a sauna, of course, a steam room, a hammam room, which to me the hammam room just looked the same as the steam room, but I digress. All these tiny little rooms with different sort of shower heads, I guess, if you want like a unique shower experience. There was not a cold plunge, but like an ice room, kind of basically the opposite of a steam room. It looked the same, except it's freezing instead of hot. So all these different rooms that you choose from, and you could stay literally till 10 p.m. They close at 10. So again, I'm thinking like, that's weird that they close at 10. Like, what happens here at night? Like, who is in the ice room at 9 p.m.? Who is in the sauna at 9 p.m.? So all of that was impressive to me. I was pleasantly surprised by how many of these rooms there were, these different treatments. However, again, you get what you pay for, and it was just a $60 entrance fee. You could spend the whole day if you want, but it's very bare bones. Like, hygiene, I thought was questionable in certain areas. There was one room that had a weird smell, kind of like just a damp, moldy, sweaty smell. And I kept thinking about that. Like, how do they keep these places clean? How do they do it? I kept looking for a fresh towel. It wasn't like your high-end spa where you see towels and robes everywhere. Like, you have to ask for it. You have to make an effort to have the experience that you want to have. But most importantly, about an hour in, it got kind of crowded, which, you know, again, you get what you pay for, but it's not so pleasant to do these kinds of things in a crowded place. The crowd was very much what you would call, in French, populaire. Populaire translates literally to popular in English, but that's not what it means. It means more like busy / crowded, but in like, dare I say, a common folk kind of way, commoners. And half the crowd was like what you would expect. The same sort of crowd that you see, you know, at a packed water park on a, on a summer day in Ohio. But the other half oof, I was pleasantly surprised. The other half was just sexy men. Rugged, athletic, definitely all athletes. Also, I felt so small. I'm 5'9", which is not tall, right? But I was like probably the shortest person in the entire, out of all the men in this whole place. All these gigantic men, again, I'm thinking they must be athletes who like, they want some treatments but don't want to pay for some high-end spa. So that was fascinating to me. Now, of course, I'm sure some of your gears are turning just like mine, just like mine were. I don't know that anything goes down in this particular place, and let me tell you why. It was co-ed, which is another, wrench in things. This was a co-ed bathhouse. Now, maybe I'm a little too prudish, a little bit old school, maybe it's just the gay in me, but I don't know that I liked that women and men are not segregated in these places. This is the one place where I'm like, you know what, I'm okay with segregation here. Tell me what you think about this in the comments, but there's something about a bathhouse that feels, I don't know, intimate to me, where it's not necessarily appropriate to combine, to mix the genders. Like, just think about a steam room, right? Or a sauna. Most people, it was actually a requirement here to have a bathing suit. So you could say it's just like a pool or the beach, right? What's the difference? But there's something to me about being in a steam room or a sauna that feels kind of, I don't know, provocative or erotic. Like, am I crazy? I don't know. And even though bathing suits were required, I just always think of these environments having certain patrons who just wear a towel and are nude under there. There had to be some people doing that, especially coming out of massages and stuff. So the whole time I'm like, there are some sexy guys, but I don't know that anything happens here or could even happen, especially with the crowdedness of it all. Like, I walked by the sauna at one point and it looked like, from the outside, because it's, glass door, I was like, I'm not getting in there. It looked like a bunch of sardines in a tin box. Like, that's not fun for me in these places. In these places, I want to relax. I want to just, be introspective. And a crowded place like this, or like a crowded spa, can totally kill the vibe. I walked into one room, into the hammam room, which was really, I think, just the same thing as the steam room, but I digress. And these chicks walked in and they were talking so loud about their itinerary that day, about, where did you get these shoes from? I was so irritated because in my mind, places like this, it's like the library. Of course you can talk to your friends, but indoor voices. Am I crazy? Is that just me being high maintenance? I just feel like a place that is associated with relaxation, you're not supposed to be talking loudly, especially when there's other people right by you. Like, it's just a respect thing. Women always ruin everything. Women ruined my experience at the Turkish bathhouse. So the co-ed thing threw me off and frankly killed some of my developing fantasies once I realized there actually were some very attractive guys in there. Which, by the way, then I thought the only place where men and women are truly separated here is the locker room. But nothing could happen in that locker room because it was tiny and there was just one shower, one bathroom, one shower. Very cramped locker room and unusual in that sense. Again, I'm telling you, this was very bare bones. Like, you're there for business. You're there for the cold room, the sauna, the steam room, like not much lollylagging, like high-end spas where you can just chill in the locker room and start shaving and doing a bunch of, mouthwash and all the other stuff that they have. I like those pampered environments. Of course you pay up. It's a lot nicer. It's a lot nicer. But who knew that then you have these bathhouses where all the rugged men go? So jury's out on what happens at this place at night since they close at 10. I'm very curious what the vibe is like at 9 p.m. there versus, I went on a Saturday afternoon, which is probably the worst time to go in terms of the crowdedness, the busyness. Like, at one point I was like, what is this, a hot tub party? Like, no. But again, you get what you pay for. I am now determined though at some point to go to a true Turkish hammam. Like, this was not a true Turkish hammam. It's like the commercialized Americanized version, but a true Turkish hammam in Turkey with the architecture and, you know, all the ritualistic sort of experiences. Like, I would love to try that and see how that is. If you've ever been to one of these places, please let me know your experience in the comments. If you've ever been to a gay sauna, I'm so curious what they actually are like. Again, too terrified to go. It's not my thing, but of course I want to hear about it. Of course I want to know what goes on in these places. Let me know in the comments.